in order to protect you from parasites and polluting substances and rotting substances, etc., that would be bad for you, gets extended to the, if you like, the moral sphere, and then becomes associated with the great ambivalence that people feel about sexuality, in which it is, as it were, taken to it's sort of co-opted in order to enforce certain rules of sexuality, which have to do, of course, with the control of males on their descendants. So, now, having looked at those, you can, this is a footnote, but I think an important one, you can perhaps now get a sense of how incredibly powerful religion is in people's minds, because religion pushes all those buttons, right? Every single one of them. Because most religions, all religions have some sort of commandment against harm, or at least a regulation of to whom you can cause harm with impunity. This often involves the obligation to cause harm to other people. That's the out-group, in-group thing, which is also part and parcel of the kinship and the loyalty system. But religion principles of fairness, and there again, what is fair varies enormously, but the idea that there is some idea of what is due and some idea of what is not due, that's present in all religious systems. And of course, so you've got harm reduction, justice, loyalty, authority, necessarily concentrated in the name of the god, and that is concentrated in part into a class of people whose job it is to enforce the fifth, namely the purity rules. So that purity rules in particular get enforced against blasphemy and against sex. Now, sometimes the results of these complex things can be paradoxical, as in my favorite definition by the comedian Butch Hancock of what he learned by being brought up in Lubbock, Texas. He says, I learned two things. One is that God loves you, and he's going to make you burn in the hell forever. And the other is that sex is the most disgusting, filthy thing in the whole world, and you should keep it for someone you love. Okay, so here's a sort of a table that summarizes all of this. I'm not going to go through again, but you can see how this works in all of these domains, and how there is a kind of a common thing that has to do with rights and duties, mutual recognition of the norms, whatever they are in all the categories, which, as I said at the beginning, involves the possibility of my feeling guilt when I've done something wrong according to one of these things, and the anger of others when I've done something wrong as well. All right. So now, another sort of footnote is, look, let's suppose that we can accept these explanations that have to do with biology. What work do they do? How do they help us to understand who we are and what our emotions are and what is morality? Jerry Fodor, who is very, very skeptical about the whole enterprise of evolutionary everything, almost to the point of not quite believing in, not quite to the point of not quite believing in evolution, but he talks almost as if he didn't sometimes, says things like, does wanting to have a beautiful woman, or for that matter a good read, really require a further motive to explain it?